I've put 3 endurance road bikes to the test in this year's Women's Road Bike of the Year, but which will come out on top? In my quest to find the very best women's road bike in today's market, I saw a mile-munching, hill-crunching machine that would not only bring me great joy to push on the pedals, but also offer good value for money. My home roads across Dartmoor National Park provided the ideal testing grounds for these 3 rigs. Steep climbs, rough lanes and sweeping moorland tarmac all give a spectacular, if a little brutal, background for pushing these bikes to their limits. So before I reveal all, do subscribe and be sure to hit the bell icon so you stay in the know when we release new videos just like this one. Let's start by getting to know our 3 contenders. Contessa is the name given to Scott's range of women's bikes, which are built using unisex frames paired with components designed to suit female riders. The Scott Contessa Addict 25 features a women's specific saddle and a fairly narrow 38cm bar for the size small tested, and it retails at very reasonable £2,499. The Liv Avail Advanced 1 is the only bike in this test to deliver women's specific geometry, which Liv has designed based on extensive body proportion research. The Avail is the brand's endurance road bike, featuring wide-ranging gearing, a more relaxed geometry and wider tyres. It'll set you back £3,699. Our third bike is a sort of wild card for this year. The Ribble CGR isn't marketed as a women's bike per se, but by using the brand's online customization tool, you can easily configure a build more suited to female riders. For example, you can opt for a women's specific saddle and specify a narrower handlebar width. It's not strictly a road bike either, as the CGR acronym actually stands for Cross Gravel Road, which represents the versatility of its intended use. The build on test retails at £4,489. Let's start by comparing the frames. It's pretty normal for our annual Women's Bike of the Year to feature both alloy and carbon framed bikes, but this is the first to include a titanium model. While carbon is often touted as the best material for lightweight, race-ready road bikes, titanium has gained favour among riders who seek ultimate durability and a vibration-dampening ride quality. Though paired with a carbon fork, the titanium Ribble CGR does carry a small weight penalty, measuring in at 9.16 kilograms, compared to the 8.7 kilogram Liv and the 8.6 kilogram Scott. Both the Liv and the Scott are constructed using carbon fibre. I'm delighted to report that all 3 bikes feature mounts for full mudguards, which are essential for riding throughout the year, in these parts at least. The Liv is supplied with a separate seat stay bridge, which can be added when you come to fit fenders. As all 3 bikes are designed for longer days in the saddle, these frame sets feature wider tyre clearances than more racy options, but I'll come on to that later. In terms of geometry, you'd have thought that Ribble's CGR, that's Cross Gravel Road, would be the exception out of these 3 bikes. In reality, the 71-degree head tube angle is only marginally slacker than the Liv and the Scott, at 71.5 and 72 degrees respectively. The measurement still falls within the normal range for an endurance road bike. However, in terms of wheelbase, the CGR is considerably longer at 1026mm. That's 28mm longer than the Liv and 45mm longer than the Scott. This is due to the lengthened chainstay, which allows you to run wider tyres on the CGR, up to 45mm with 700C wheels, or 47mm wide if you switch over to 650B wheels. Interestingly, reach only varies by 4mm across the 3 bikes, with the Liv offering the shortest measurement and the Scott the longest. In terms of tyre clearance, the Ribble leads the way with space for 45mm rubber with 700C wheels or 47mm with 650Bs, whilst the Scott and the Liv can both accommodate up to 35mm tyres. Moving on to the builds, all 3 bikes are kitted out with Shimano 105, although the Liv Avail and the Ribble CGR feature the new 12-speed electronic Shimano 105 Di2, which is reflected in the pricing. In order to keep these bikes at competitive price points, a few substitutions have been made. This includes the non-series Shimano crankset on the Liv, the Praxis Alba M24 crankset and KMC chain spec'd on the Scott, and Ribble's Tektro brake rotors. Each of these bike brands use their own finishing kit, with Syncross providing the bar, stem and seat post for the Scott, while Ribble has employed their level components, and Liv is built up with a mix of giant finishing kit and the women's-specific Liv handlebar. The same applies for the wheels, although in the case of the Ribble, the bike has been upgraded to include a carbon fibre Zip 303S wheel set. While these Zip wheels are 45mm deep, The Scott rolls on shallow 24mm Syncross RP 2.0 disc alloy wheels. The Liv falls somewhere in between, using a mid-section 36mm deep Giant SLR2 36 wheelset. All three endurance road bikes feature fairly chunky rubber, with 32mm tyres fitted on each. Continental's popular GP5000 STR tyres come on the Ribble, Schwalbe 1 tyres on the Scott, though those aren't tubeless ready, and the semi-slick Giant Gavia Fondo 1 tyres are fitted on the Liv that actually measure up wider at 34mm. So that's all about the builds, but most crucially, how did they ride? The Scott, Ribble and Liv may all be designed with longer days in the saddle in mind, but they each have a slightly different ride quality. Once any tweaks were made to accommodate fit, including rotating the seat post clamp of the Liv to reduce the saddle offset by 20mm, all three bikes gave a comfortable ride over multiple hours on the road. The 40cm bars of the Ribble were noticeably different, giving a wider, more stable position over the front end, which was also the case on the Liv. The Scott's 38cm bar was more in keeping with race bikes of this size and gave a more streamlined feel. The Ribble was perhaps the most comfortable for me, and I'll admit to being slightly biased as it's closest to a gravel bike in design, which is the one I probably ride the most. The Scott felt much more at the race bike end of the spectrum, though still plenty comfortable enough, while the Liv fell somewhere in the middle. When it came to climbing, it was the Scott that really shone. A wide range of gearing was seen across all three bikes, which I was very happy to find, but the Scott's lightweight build and snappy handling really excelled when I started to point uphill. The Liv felt pretty lacklustre in this respect, which I suspect would be largely down to the heavier file tread tyres. On wider rims, these measured up really wide at 34mm. That's great for comfort, but if you're looking for a speedier ride, then you'd be much better off switching those out for a slicker and slightly narrower performance tyre. While the Ribble weighed in a little heavier, it still climbed well, thanks to wide gearing and performance tyres. After cresting the hill, next comes the marvellous descent, and it was the Ribble that felt best while soaring down long and twisting Dartmoor tarmac. The wider position and longer wheelbase promoted stability, while the fantastic Continental GP5000 STR tyres provided both excellent grip in the wet and the dry. I'd find it hard to complain about the descending performance of either the Liv or the Scott, but they didn't quite inspire the same confidence that I'd experienced on the Ribble. Despite only the Ribble being designed specifically for gravel, I tested all three on some fine gravel cycle paths. Each proved more than up to the challenge, but it was the Ribble that inspired the most confidence. This allowed me to tackle some slightly more technical sections too, even on slicks. If mixing it up with some off-road riding is a priority for you, then the wide tyre clearances offered by the Ribble, as well as the opportunity to run 650B wheels, should be a real boon. To summarise, the Scott feels most like a race bike, the Ribble feels most similar to a gravel bike, and the Liv falls somewhere in between, slap bang in the middle of the endurance road category. Price-wise, there's a fair bit of difference between these three bikes, and for good reason too. At the lower end of the scale, the Shimano 105 equipped Scott will set you back £2,499. You'll need to up the budget to £3,699 for the electronic shifting of the Liv Avail. Topping out at £4,489, the titanium Ribble CGR does demand a heftier investment. However, it's worth mentioning that without upgrades like the Zip 303S wheelset, the pricing starts at £3,499 for the Enthusiast 105 Di2 builds. Three worthy contenders, but there can only be one crowned queen of the Women's Road Bike of the Year category. So which one is it? Drum roll please. While it was a real close run call this year, it's the Scott Contessa Addict 25 that takes the title for matching a cracking ride quality at a surprisingly affordable price point. Unrivaled in terms of value for money, the Scott offers a lively, joyful ride at a competitive £2.5 price tag. All this without compromising on the sleek appearance, modern geometry or reliable Shimano 105 shifting and brakes. A close runner-up, if you're looking for a bike that can easily take you off-road as well as on, then the versatile Ribble CGR TI Enthusiast certainly warrants your attention. Scott, Liv or Ribble, which looks most like your cup of tea? Let us know down in the comments. And while you're down there, don't forget to like and subscribe, and if the Ribble whetted your appetite for gravel, then why not check out this video?